Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Following on from my previous video for the Kaiser's Pirates, I'm now going to do a short playthrough of part of a game to show you how the solitaire system works. So I've just set everything up, so this will be my side and that is the solitaire or the phantom player's side as the rules have it. Makes him sound rather ominous, but there we go. So as per the other version of the game, both players start with 6 ships. You've got your 3 warships and raiders and your 3 merchant ships, and my opponent has likewise. Certain cards are removed from the deck, and because it's effectively a 2-player game, the deck is then shuffled after the cards that are not suitable have been weeded to give you a starting deck of 40 cards. Both players are then dealt a hand of 6 cards. Now, as the live or human player, I will operate my hand of cards normally, but things are a little bit different with the phantom player. So he or she, depending on how you view these imaginary things, gets a hand of 6 cards, but they just sit there. They are only moved or discarded in the event that I play certain cards that force that player to do so. So those cards are not used. What is employed is the phantom player's deck of cards that govern his offensive, defensive, and special actions. We'll see how those go in a moment, but I will just shuffle them. The merchant and warship come raider decks require no additional preparation, so I've just put them off to one side there. And of course that is the main deck of cards which will not be used because they've been put out of play. So I really don't have any idea what's going to come up in this. As for initiative, that is resolved in exactly the same way as the basic game is. So I'm just going to zoom in so you have a better view of the ship cards. There we go. Hope everything's nice and visible. So you can either go by a straight roll-off against yourself for initiative, or you can go by the victory point value of both sides' warships. So I think we'll go for the latter. And by a very narrow margin, the phantom player is ahead of me. He has the cruiser Königsberg, the mine-laying raider Muir, and the liner Prinz Eitel Friedrich. I have got the cruiser Nürnberg, the liner Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse, and the mine-laying raider Meteor. So we're actually quite well balanced there, interestingly enough. So to begin with the phantom player, you start by drawing a card from his deck and referencing the offensive action side. So he's got 4 boxes, and what happens is I roll a 4-sided dice. And I've rolled a 1. Okay, well that's good news for me. No action, end turn. The phantom player starts very quietly. So of course, play would come round to me. Now, the phantom player, in order to keep the game moving, in theory has to draw a card to refill his hand from the draw deck, but it is not added to his deck. It is simply placed face down in the discard pile. As I say, that is simply to keep the game moving because, of course, the round ends when the last card has been drawn. So over to me. What do I want to do to him? There's a nice break contact card that I possibly want to hang on to. I really want to inflict a rendezvous mist on him. Simply because 2 of his 3 ships are vulnerable to limited supply, and it would be great if I could be nasty. I have the usual dilemma with damage control cards. None of my ships are damaged. I don't really want to keep that card hanging around unless I need to. I'd like to use it as an intercept, but it inevitably gives me a nighttime one. It's such a pain. I have a submarine, but I'd like to keep that in reserve for richer pickings, or maybe wounded merchant ships that are more of a sure thing. So, okay, I think I will commit my Rendezvous Mist card as an action, and I will combine damage control, which I'm going to use as an intercept card with boarding party. And I'm going to give the job of carrying this attack out to my most capable warship, the Nuremberg. Now, even though I'm playing against a game-controlled phantom player, I'm still placing the cards face down. And the reason I'm doing that, and it's recommended in the rules, is that you can keep track, if you're distracted or your concentration wavers, of what actions you have carried out and what you have not. So I'm going to resolve Nuremberg's attack. So we have a nighttime intercept and we have a boarding party. And my target is going to be his most expensive points-wise merchant ship, the cargo vessel Diplomat. Now this is where he gets to interact with me again. So I've declared an interception. So we draw the top card and we reference the defensive actions. Now, if I roll a 2 or a 4 on a d4, he will get to counter me with fast ship. I've rolled a 1, so that doesn't happen. However, he does get to draw again. Oh dear, this could get nasty. If he gets a 2 or a 4, I've run into a Q ship. He has got a 4. So I next draw to see whether there's any special actions with his Q ship. Special actions are on this part of the card. He has got a boarding party. So, oh, I've just realised I made a mistake. I should have stopped with no response because I rolled a 1 on the first card. Never mind, let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's say that the Q ship was his first action. Boarding party is inappropriate to a Q ship, so nothing happens. So rather than fighting the Diplomat, which I find myself facing a Q ship, which obviously I will not be boarding. However, I do get to fight it and possibly sink it for some victory points. So somewhat upset by this turn of events and very, very angry, the Nuremberg closes in on this Q ship that has had the nerve to pretend to be the innocent merchant ship that they wanted to have a go at. Opens fire, and I've got a 9 on the blue dice. The poor Q ship only has a defensive green dice, so that's not going to end well for it. It rolls a 5, so I have damaged it. Rats. Good as far as it goes, but not a kill. It now returns fire with its rather puny blue gun, but it could still potentially damage me. It rolls a 4. I'm not too worried about that. As you can see, the Nuremberg, while hardly a dreadnought, is not exactly a lightly built ship either. So they got a 4. Reduced to 3 because it's a nighttime intercept. And I should have reduced my roll too, but it works out. So, and I've rolled a 7, so I've damaged the Q ship and I've absorbed its counterfire. Unfortunately, no points because I didn't sink it outright, but at least the Nuremberg got away with that. It could have been worse. So I don't get my victim, which is sad, but there we are. Now I'm going to play Rendezvous Missed. Each warship or raider of an opposing player's force, except those located in an island refuge, must check for limited supply. Now, none of them are in an island refuge. And those two are particularly vulnerable. They get a minus modifier to their roll because they are coal-hungry hogs. So I am going to make my challenge roll, which is a blue and green dice first against the Prinz Eitel Friedrich. And I've rolled a 10. I don't think he stands a chance, to be honest. They roll a green dice in response, and they get a 2. The Prinz Eitel Friedrich is short of coal, and I'll just put a little marker there to show that. We'll move on to the moor next. Now, she is not a coal hog, so I better hope I roll well. I get a 7, and she gets a 4. The moor is short of coal too. This is good. And lastly, the cruiser Königsberg. I've got a 6. She gets a 3. Well, that was an excellent round, because although the rendezvous missed card is quite undramatic in the short term, I have just severely hobbled all of the Phantom players' ships. So with the coal pile, they are now severely limited, not too severely, but they get negative modifiers to their dice rolls every time they intercept a ship, which is very useful for me. So I'm quite happy with that turn, because even though I failed to sink anything, I've still done him some damage, and I just draw my card to fill out my hand. So it's now back to the Phantom player. At the start of every turn, you reshuffle the Phantom player's deck, just to make sure that there's as much randomness and the fullest range of actions that you can give him. So drawing his first card, we'll roll a d4 again, 4-sided dice, and consult the bottom bit. He is going to play damage control. Now, none of his ships are damaged, so that doesn't really do anything. But he gets to have another go, because there is no end turn at the end of damage control, so he can keep going until his system tells him to stop. So he's got a few more options with this one, and he rolls a 4. Blockade Runner. Okay, let's see what happens. Now, I believe Blockade Runner is a resupply card. This comes in very handy when you are playing the Phantom player. So a Blockade Runner provides resupply for each warship and raider with limited supply in a friendly player's force. Roll individually for each ship. Oh no! Curses! That's not what I wanted in the slightest. So, and of course there's no modifiers, because it's not the coal-hungry ships that are trying to reach them. It's a Blockade Runner. No! Oh well, let's do the Prinz Eitel Friedrich first. Blockade Runner rolls a 9. I roll a 4. Drat! She's been resupplied. The Moor. Blockade Runner rolled a 7. I rolled an 8. The Moor didn't get any resupply. Nice. And lastly, the Königsberg. Blockade Runner got a 6. I got a 3. Drat. Typical of my luck in this game. The coal hogs managed to get a resupply. The efficient ship didn't. Not what I wanted. And so the Phantom player's turn continues. Another 4-sided dice. Second chance, and then his turn will end. So a second chance when it's at home. After drawing a card to end his current turn, the player immediately receives an additional turn. Wireless intercept or another second chance may not be played during the additional turn. Now, in terms of the rules for the Phantom player, what happens with a second chance card is that he simply gets another chance at an action, and then it will bring his turn to an end. He's rolled a 1. No further actions, and he ends his turn anyway. Okay, so I'll draw another card for his hand, but put it straight into the discard pile. And it's over to me. Well, you naughty fellow, resupplying your ships like that. Now, I have a lot of useful response cards that I don't really want to give away, but I may have to start using them. However, I do have a submarine. Submarines can either attack a single merchantman with torpedoes, or they can lay mines. And it's a bit of a tricky one because torpedoes are far more effective a form of attack. Mines are weaker, but they attack every ship in his row if you lay a field of mines. I'll have to think about that, but I am going to commit the submarine. And the break contact card is useful, but it's a little bit chancy as well. So I'm going to use that as an intercept order. And I am going to tell am I? Actually, it might be worth... No. I am going to play that as an independent intercept because I want the British forces to attack the Königsberg. So I'll play and resolve that one first. British forces intercepting the cruiser Königsberg, and the Phantom player draws his defensive actions. Right. Razzle Dazzle is not something he can actually use, so even if he gets it, it's not a legal defense against a surface intercept, so he has no card to play in defense, which means the British ship, be a light cruiser or something, steams in to attack with its blue and white dice. And the British roll a 3. They're a bit off their game today. Königsberg might get away with it because she has got a blue, a red and a white for defense. And she rolls a 7. She gets away with it. Never mind. My submarine, I think I'll put everything onto a torpedo attack. And I'm going to attack the diplomat. So rather than laying a field of mines, I'll just go in for a torpedo attack. Again, the Phantom player can try and defend himself. Roll a 4-sided dice. He's got a 1, so he can potentially play slim pickings, but we'll have to see whether that card can actually stop a submarine attack. Unfortunately for him, slim pickings only stops a surface attack. It does nothing against submarines, so good effort, but unfortunately I still see you. So I'm going to maneuver in for my torpedo attack, my blue and red dice, and the diplomat is going to hold its breath with its green dice and hope that I miss, I suppose. I have hit it. My highest score roll was a 6 and the diplomat's highest roll was a 5, but I've not sunk it. So the diplomat takes a damage counter. And that is the end of my turn, so I shall draw my card. Ooh, my luck's in. Another submarine. Not too bad. Right, over to the Phantom player. He draws his card. I roll the d4 for him. A 2. Intercept, warship, raider, or prize. Okay. So I have no prizes. My 2 raiders are not recognized, so they can't be attacked, which means that this British warship is going to go straight for the cruiser Nuremberg. I have no defensive cards that can help me, so it's a straight up fight, but I'm feeling fairly confident. He has a blue and a white dice. I do one better by having a red dice in my mix, so at the risk of cursing myself, the odds are in my favour. Let's see what happens. The British open fire. Their highest roll is a 3. Looks like they're still off their game. Nuremberg responds. Highest roll is a 7. Regardless of the outcome, Nuremberg has escaped. So the Phantom player draws another card, and moves on. Because note, there there was no end your turn instruction under that, so he carries on doing horrid things to me. He rolls a 1. No action, end turn. Phew! Draws a card which goes into the discard pile, and it's back to me. Right. Bit of a small hand I've got here. I'm going to hang on to my response cards, and I'm going to play another submarine. This one has no mine-laying capability, and this is one wrinkle I like. The submarines are very accurately modelled. Some of the subs in this game, which were historically mine-laying subs, have that option. U-27 here is purely a torpedo-carrying sub. So I'm going to play her as my only action for the turn, and she is going to move in on the damaged diplomat to see if she can finish her off. There is a possibility of defensive action. Non-combatant, what does that do in the context of a submarine attack? It has to be an undamaged merchantman. So that does not apply. Okay, so I have sorted that out. I am just going to make sure that I have not forgotten anything else my submarine can do before I make my attack. Okay, no, that is fine. I've returned to the con because I have forgotten nothing. Sorry, it was just one of those niggling moments of doubt. So I'm going to make my attack roll. Oh, piffle. I've rolled a 2 as my highest. Diplomat gets a -2, but even with that it's a 5. So U-27 has botched its attack. And I sigh deeply and draw a card. Ooh, armed merchant cruiser. That could be fun. Over to my friendly phantom player.